Welcome to Nobilis Erotica, the best science fiction and fantasy erotica podcast in the known universe. This week's story, Lesbian Principle on Principle Action. This is episode 450. I am your host, Nobilis Reed. This episode of Nobilis Erotica is sponsored by the generous patronage of Nobilis Erotica listeners. To help out paying the authors and voices that create these stories, visit patreon.com/Nobilis. The November patron-funded story is Coyote and the Principles of Things by Piper, a small furry animal that writes. It loves science, fantasy, poetry, long walks on the beach, and poking dead things with a stick. Our narrator is Jada Adams, an oracle, author of erotic horror, and all-around amazing human being. Her website, jadaadams.com, is linked in the show notes. Here we go.
Coyote and the Principles of Things. Coyote was horny, but she was also sick of people and animals and her own self. So she went to a bar in the borderlands where principals and such hung out. She got a pineapple cider and had a hard time getting the top off. Her Swiss Army knife got confiscated at airline security, and she was still too pissed to get a new one. But eventually the bartender sneered and did it for her. The drink was worth it, cold and golden and good, and she sat down sideways in them both and leaned against the wall to look at what was going on. There were all kinds in there, most of them looking like they wanted to be more drunk. What caught her eye was, upon consideration, probably what one individual in it mistook for a seduction. Free speech was way too close in Lady Liberty's space. Corona dripped off his mustache and he was yelling some damn thing, and Lady Liberty looked hunted and hurt. Coyote could have wondered why the lady was taking this shit sitting down, but she decided she'd rather interfere instead. So she walked over and smacked down her bottle on the bar between them, squeezing in with her shoulders. She felt Corona drip into her long gray hair, which was gross. Lady Liberty had a coffee, which she covered with her hands. Coyote opened her mouth, but Free Speech was already yelling, "What the hell are you doing here?" right in Coyote's ear, so she turned around and smacked him. His eyes were watery and blue, and they got real wide. "I'm trying to talk to the lady," he said. "Actually, she's keen on me." "No, I'm not," muttered Lady Liberty, and Coyote nodded without turning to look at her. She grabbed Free Speech by the throat and pushed him off his chair. "You can't just hit me," said Free Speech. And maybe he was right, because Coyote kicked him in the kidney. He squirmed and yelled, but he didn't get up too quick. Meanwhile, Coyote had turned back. Lady Liberty was crying into her coffee. Coyote hated to see a lady in tears, even more than she hated leaving a drink behind, so she took her arm and got them the hell out of that bar. They walked together silent at first, and then Lady Liberty said, "I'm sorry. I knew him when he was a kid." "His big brother was a Nazi," said Coyote. "I'm still picking that asshole's guts out of my molars, and lately I hear he isn't dead." "That would be bad," said Lady Liberty. Coyote sighed. She didn't like fighting much anyway. But Lady Liberty was gorgeous in an old-fashioned, strong-boned kind of way, and they were walking together by the full moon's light. So Coyote said, "Want to come back to my place and fool around?" Lady Liberty laughed, which made her beautiful, and said, "Sure, yeah, let's," which made her absolutely the greatest to Coyote just then. Coyote didn't have a place exactly, but she knew of a den or so here or there. She took Lady Liberty into the state forest and halfway up a giant old tree. The center had burned out of it in a lightning storm, and inside there was a mattress and a hook to hang your things on. It was just about roomy enough for two, if the two weren't particular about personal space. Lady Liberty's gown caught in the bark at the entrance, so Coyote turned around and took it off her there, draping it along the nearest branch like a flag. Her skin gleamed in the moonlight, and Coyote pulled off her boots, too, and let them fall to the forest floor. She put her tongue on Lady Liberty's naked toes, which were warm and salty from the walk. Maybe it tickled because Lady Liberty giggled and kicked a little, and Coyote nosed her way up the inside of Lady Liberty's leg. At her crotch, Coyote leaned in, burying her whole nose and mouth. Lady Liberty smelled like good beer, the old kind, and she tasted like the wide-open sea. She gasped like the wind through branches. Coyote said, "Uh-huh," and Lady Liberty sort of laughed again, bucking her hips into Coyote's face. Coyote wrapped one hand around Lady Liberty's ass, which was silky and broad and exceedingly fine to grab. The other hand she slipped up beside her cheek, then into Lady Liberty's cunt. One slow finger went first, crooking around a little in the silky wet heat, then two more as Lady Liberty made room, spreading her legs apart and twining her long fingers into Coyote's hair. Coyote rubbed her nose around on Lady Liberty's clitoris and kept darting her tongue out to lick and taste. She was delicious and would have made a great combination with pineapple cider. When Lady Liberty came, she was shaking so hard Coyote thought she might lose her balance and fall out of the tree entirely, so she held on tight and leaned backwards, and they both landed in a heap upon the mattress. Lady Liberty stretched out there. She was languid and warm, still breathing hard, and she pulled Coyote close to her side. Lying down this way, she was clearly much taller than Coyote, which hadn't been so obvious while they'd been walking. She wrapped one arm around Coyote's neck, put their faces together, and gave her a windy, open-mouthed kiss. With her other arm, she unbuttoned Coyote's flannel shirt, pushing it open. Somehow, she ended up with one hand on each of Coyote's nipples, pinching them up hard, and Coyote yelped. "You like that?" asked Lady Liberty, and Coyote nodded hard. "Tell me," said Lady Liberty, her lips moving on Coyote's face. "Tell me aloud." Coyote gasped and found words somehow. "I love that, Lady Liberty," she said, more or less. "I love it when you touch me, when you grab me hard like that." And Lady Liberty spread her wide palms over Coyote's heavy breasts and squeezed. "I love how strong you are," she said. And Lady Liberty put her naked weight over Coyote's body, pressing her down. "I love you, Lady Liberty," she said, and one big thigh pushed Coyote's legs apart. Coyote didn't even have her pants down, but Lady Liberty pressed up into her crotch and rocked there, back and forth. Coyote was pretty much howling by then, her voice pounding out of her throat while she throbbed through her climax. "I love you!" Lady Liberty held Coyote while she thrashed, then kissed her panting lips again. "I'm glad," she said. She lay down flat on the mattress, cuddling Coyote's face into her naked breasts. "You know," said Lady Liberty, "I deserve that." "Yes, you do," said Coyote with a laugh. They were quiet together for a while, all skin and touch. Eventually, Coyote took her pants off, which was much more comfortable, and anyway they needed a bit to air out. Coyote found a flask of water under the mattress, and they both had a drink. When Coyote took the flask back, she noticed Lady Liberty's face was wet. "You all right?" she asked. Lady Liberty took a moment, then pulled Coyote back into her arms. "I'll be okay. I love you too," she said. "It's just, I was thinking, I really miss Justice." "Me too," said Coyote. "You two were great together." She thought about it for a minute, then decided to say, "You know, we could go look for them, you and me, if you want." Lady Liberty hugged Coyote harder. "Yeah," she said, "let's do that." And after they had a little more rest and some water, they did.
And that's our story. Over on the Patreon campaign this month, we're welcoming Kyvie. Along with all of our other patrons, Kyvie will be receiving 2 chapters a month of the 3rd volume of the Monster Whisperer series, titled Monster Whisperer third person. Thank you so much for your support. You have been listening to the Nobilis Erotica podcast. Theme music is composed and performed by Mass Relay. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Until next time, listen hard.
Lady Liberty held Coyote while she quack